Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. And I'd like to call to order the Lake Forest City Council meeting, May 19th, 2015. And show roll call that all council members are present. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. We're on tape delay. Closed session. Anything to report?
No action tonight, Mr. Mayor.
That brings us to public session. Invocation will be led by Pastor Dave Arnold of Saddleback Church, the largest church this side of the Mississippi, and we're so blessed to have them in our own city. So we thank you for coming and blessing our city and our residents.
Thank you. It's a great privilege for me to be invited to say this prayer tonight. And the Bible tells us that we are responsible for praying for our government and our leaders. In fact, the Apostle Paul wrote in Timothy that I urge you then, first, that all requests, prayers, intercession, and thanksgiving be made for everyone, for kings and all those in authority, that we may live peaceful and quiet lives in godliness and holiness. In Romans 13, the Bible says, everyone must submit himself to the governing authorities, that they are no authority except that which God has established. So please let me pray.
Thank you.
Father God, you instructed us to pray for our leaders as they serve under your authority. Tonight I lift up our leaders and thank you for a city that allows us the freedom to pray. Thank you, Lord, for each of them and for their unselfish service to our community. Please give Mayor Scott Voights, Mayor Pro Tem Andrew Hamilton, Councilman Dr. Jim Gardner, Councilman Adam Nick, and Councilman Dwight Robinson discretion, foresight, and understanding in making decisions tonight and make choices that are pleasing to you. Give each of our councilmen the courage to do the right thing, even when it may be unpopular. Protect every member of our city staff from harm. Bless and protect their families. Enable them to carry out their duties with humility towards you and towards others. Bless each of them with strength, endurance, and stamina, as well as a tender heart towards one another. Please protect our city and continue to bless the citizens of Lake Forest. In the powerful name of Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen.
Amen. And thank you, Pastor Arnold. And let Pastor Rick know that we pray for the leadership of Saddleback Church. Thank you. That brings us to the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Nick.
Please rise. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
That brings us to presentations. May I receive a motion?
Move presentations.
Second. All in favor?
That motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 3, receive a presentation from Irvine Ranch Water District for recycling water use at the Lake Forest Sports Park, submitted by Director of Public Works, City Engineer.
I think it'll stay there. If I may introduce Steve Lamar, the President of the Board of Directors for Irvine Ranch Water District. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Voights, members of the council. Irvine Ranch Water District is here to, on behalf of Water Reuse California, to present to the City of Lake Forest the Recycled Water Customer of the Year Award. Water Reuse California is made up of a combination of public and private entities that are supporting recycled water and water reuse. We're in a very interesting times right now, probably the worst drought in the history of the state of California. So being able to use recycled water instead of importing water from Colorado or from the northern part of the state or pumping it out of the ground is really valuable to all of the residents of Orange County. IRWD has a long history with one of the largest recycled water systems in the state. We've got about 5,000 sites throughout our service area, about 500 miles of recycled water pipeline, and it's really an incredibly valuable resource. As a member of Water Reuse California, we nominated the City of Lake Forest Sports Park this year. As you know, we've got a great partnership with the city, and we're providing recycled water irrigation for the fields, as well as use in the restrooms and the toilets and in the urinals, and when you put everything together, that's going to save us about 40 million gallons per year on an annual basis. So very proud to be in partnership with the city, and happy to present this award to the City of Lake Forest. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm coming. You know, we're very, very, very fortunate to have probably the gold standard of sports park in all of Southern California with our Lake Forest Sports Park. It's, many of you have been there, and if you haven't been there, I encourage you to stop by and walk. We've got a walking trail that goes all the way around the park. It's 1.25 miles. I just encourage everyone to stop by and see it. But, you know, when we're all being asked to cut back on water, many of the people, the residents, will wonder why our sports park is still green. We're using second reclaimed water, and so the fact is that on behalf of the City of Lake Forest, I'm very pleased to accept this award. You guys, we're very fortunate to have Irvine Ranch Water District and El Toro Water District as our water districts for Lake Forest. And, you know, Irvine Ranch Water District does a marvelous job in ground basin water and banking it in different areas of the state so that we will always have a good supply of water. So on behalf of the City of Lake Forest, I received this award, and thank you for the great job you do.
Thank you. Okay. And I'd also like to recognize former Mayor and Council Member Mark Pittman, heads up our recycled water effort at
Agenda Item 4, Proclamation designating May 25th through September 7th, 2015 as Drowning Prevention Awareness Season, submitted by City Clerk.
You know, as summertime approaches, we hope to all still have water in our pools, but drowning is such an unnecessary loss of life, and the life it lost is some of the most cherished life that we have. And so on behalf of that, we'd like to see Lake Forest proclaim this month as Drowning Prevention Awareness. I think that we can't talk enough about it because the life we may lose or don't want to lose is the most precious that we have. And to speak on that is the Orange County Sheriff or Fire Department.
Thank you very much, Mayor Voights and other council members. As you know, that from May through Labor Day through September, the Orange County Fire Authority recognizes Drowning Prevention Awareness. And tragically, drownings are one of the leading causes of death in the county, and especially those from ages 0 to 4 years old. This year alone, we've had 17 drownings. Of those, 9 have been fatal, one of those being in the city of Lake Forest. And these are preventable deaths. We've had a campaign in the Orange County Fire Authority for many years, partnering with Orange County Healthcare Agency, the Red Cross, bringing attention to this issue. These are preventable deaths. We're advocating never swim alone. That's the slogan this year. And it is very important that people that have pools, including those that are around communities, and you'd be surprised, beach deaths as well as pools and bathtubs contribute to those deaths. So we urge you and appreciate the fact that you've recognized drowning prevention and bringing attention to this preventable deaths. Thank you very much.
Agenda Item 5, recognition of Assistant City Manager David Bellmer for his 9 years of city service, submitted by Deputy City Manager, Director of Management Services.
Mr. Members of the City Council, I'm going to say just a few words, and then we're going to ask Mr. Bellmer to come up and join the mayor. 9 years ago, the Assistant City Manager of Lake Forest was Mr. Mark Pallone, who left the city to become the City Manager of the city of Aliso Viejo, and so we were in need of an assistant. I happen to be aware of a gentleman over in the city of Cypress, obviously David Bellmer, who I thought would potentially really serve the city of Lake Forest well in that role. And as it turned out, he recruited for the position, and as we know here, obviously, I appointed David to be the Assistant City Manager of the City of Lake Forest, which he has served well over the course of that 9-year period. As I mentioned, David came from the city of Cypress, and he was their community development director, had been working on redevelopment issues, which was really critical to our city at the time. So when you're hiring folks, sometimes you look at what are the needs of the community and who best fits those, and David fit those exceptionally well to be both the individual who would help the city deal with our redevelopment programs, but also serve as a general assistant city manager. This is incredibly bittersweet tonight, Mr. Mayor. We're excited for David. For those who don't know, Thursday is his last day with the city of Lake Forest, and that really is the very bitter part of this. But of course, the sweet part is the fact that he's moving on to a very challenging and rewarding and a very large set of responsibilities with the city of Anaheim as their planning director. And just given the sorts of things that are going on in the city of Anaheim right now, that is incredibly a very large job. But I think David has done just an incredible job here in Lake Forest, and what he's been able to do, I think, certainly has helped him grow both professionally in many ways, and prepared him for this transition to the city of Anaheim. We're really sad that he's leaving, but we're very, very excited and proud of David going to the city of Anaheim. I'm going to talk to that city manager someday and tell him I wish you hadn't done that, but okay. He didn't call me and ask. That's another matter. I may not have given my permission, but I think David had a very tough decision to make, and I think when it comes to making decisions about your career, you make those that are in your best interest and that of your family, and I know in David's heart that that's what he's done, and desires to make this move, and so tonight, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, we want to recognize David Bellmer for his 9 years of service with the City of Lake Forest. I know we are all better off because David has been our assistant city manager. I am personally better off, both for his professional support and the friendship that we've obviously grown over the course of 9 years. And so I'm very pleased to ask him to join you, Mr. Mayor, to receive what we traditionally do. But it comes with our heartfelt thank you to David for just an incredible job well done for Lake Forest.
I came on the city 5 years ago, and we had a lot going on in our city, and we've done remarkable things in these 5 years. But in the 9 years that David was here, we've had the opportunity to study the closure of the El Toro Marine Corps Air Station and the rezoning and reconfiguration of our city, the widening of El Toro Road, the completion of Alton Parkway. As I mentioned earlier, the completion of the gem of all of Southern California in our Lake Forest Sports Park, and the remarkable job that he's done as an assistant to, I think, one of the best city managers that we have in the county of Orange. And so it's my great pleasure to be the mayor to present this, but it's bittersweet as someone who loves Lake Forest and knows the dedication and work ethics of David Bellmer. And so on behalf of the city of Lake Forest, in a sincere appreciation of the years of outstanding service, dedication to the city of Lake Forest, your contributions and commitment to exceptional public service have made a lasting impact on our organization. The city, the residents benefit from your exemplary work for years to come. His legacy, his print will be in all that we've completed over the years. And so thank you for your dedication and commitment to the city of Lake Forest.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there more?
We're going to get picture after.
Okay. We're going to come down.
Wait, we're going to get a picture.
A group picture? We're going to do that now?
We're going to do that now. Let's do it now.
I'd defer you. You're the mayor.
They all want to be part of this. We're all so very, very proud to have you.
Don't go, there's still time.
Okay, here, I'll speak with you. I'm not good at photo. Don't make a face. Well, thank you all very much.
Thank you. Please have a few words for us.
Yes, it's what an honor. I have 5 very quick thank yous. First to the council. I want to thank you all for providing what I consider to be excellent executive leadership that really has created an environment that has allowed the staff, I think, to thrive. And so I thank you for that. And with regard to my department in particular, which is economic development, the council has been very supportive of all that we've wanted to do, and you've been a big part of what we have been able to do in economic development. So I thank you for that. And then I'm going to quote the mayor, who regularly says, he said it here just a moment ago, that we have one of the best city managers in Orange County. I think we have the best city manager in Orange County. And I can tell you that I wouldn't be here in part if it wasn't for Bob Dunick. I came here in part because I wanted to work for Bob Dunick. The same can probably be said for a lot of my executive team colleagues, because his reputation precedes himself. He walks the talk. And I can guarantee you, even though I'm still a little bit nervous about heading to the city of Anaheim, I'm just a little bit more confident in my abilities to succeed there because of the mentorship and the professional guidance I have received over 9 years from Bob. So he sets the standard. He sets it very high. Third, my executive team colleagues, I guarantee you couldn't ask for a more dedicated professional group of people than our management team. It's been my pleasure to serve alongside of them for 9 years. There's been some changes, some new faces. Scott is our most recent addition. He's been a great addition. I know he's going to serve the city very well. Fourth, my staff, economic development and community preservation, which is code enforcement, economic development. I couldn't ask for a more dedicated group of staff. They have been a big part of all we've been able to achieve here, and they've been very supportive of me throughout the 9 years I've been here. And I really want to extend a heartfelt thank you to them. And last but not least, the public, the people that I guess theoretically I've tried to serve every day. I've come to work here in the city of Lake Forest. I don't live in town, but I live near town. I was at one point in time a Lake Forest resident. So I've met a lot of you along the 9 years that I've worked here. I haven't certainly met all of you. But I've enjoyed meeting the ones that I've met, and I want you to know that I've come to work every day here in the city of Lake Forest, trying to give you the best value for the dollar that you pay me. So I hope I've fulfilled that expectation. I'd like to think I have, but maybe only years from now you all will be the judge of that. But I wish to thank you, because the community here has been very supportive of what we try to do, and it really is a partnership between the staff and the community. It doesn't work if we don't work together. So thank all of you. So with that, Mayor, I want to end with these words, which is, please remember and don't ever forget, it's never been a better time to shop and dine in Lake Forest. I know you know that, and you want to talk to you, Mayor. So thank you, and thank all of you.
And with that, I think that we've had some few public comments that would like to come forward and speak.
Margie Matzel.
Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Calling Mr. Bellmer, but I'm going to go with David. First of all, I agree. I just started a job a few months ago in Laguna Hills, but I told David that I only work there. I come back to shop and dine. Spend no dollars anywhere but Lake Forest. First of all, a little nervous, but the chamber on a regular basis would embarrass David at chamber events. As a matter of fact, we had our own little cheering section, which he hated because, as you know, he doesn't like the limelight. So he'd be announced by somebody and say, please don't announce my name. But, of course, we did, and we're applauding for David. David and I go back to May of 2009 when former Mayor Mark Teddimer, along with former Mayor the late Richard Dixon, formed an ad hoc committee to form a chamber. David and then Jessica Gonzalez, current economic manager, sat on the committee from the city. And David's insight, all the insight you brought to that was amazing, David, and we wouldn't be having a chamber 6.5 years later if it wasn't for David's insight. He's been a strong and loyal supporter of the Lake Forest Chamber of Commerce, along with Jessica Gonzalez, now Amanda Wicker, Adrian, and also formerly Carlo, back in those days. I knew David further back than that from, I heard of you from Richard. Always spoke very highly of you, and then I finally met you in 2009. As Mr. Dunnick mentioned, the word around the city before David got here was Mark Pallone. I actually met him when I was a leadership class, Leadership Academy. And the word around town, which you've all heard before, was who the heck is going to replace Mark Pallone? Who's going to fill Mark Pallone's shoes? Well, this is the last time I'll embarrass you, David, but I have to say that you have more than filled his shoes and then some and beyond. So we're going to miss you. We're happy for you, but Rancho's not that far away. So come and visit, and thank you for your loyalty to the Chamber, to Kiwanis, and on behalf of the Chamber and Kiwanis, we thank you so much for your service to the city. And I won't wish you luck because you're going to do great because, as you said, you had a great mentor, Mr. Dunnick. So thank you, David.
There have been no further requests.
Okay, so with that, I would say, David, you've been an extreme blessing to us, and we're very, very blessed to have had you in the city of Lake Forest. We wish you all Godspeed in Anaheim, my second favorite city. And so thank you for your service to our city, and I'll open it up to council members.
Well, I too just want to say how very, very glad I am to have had the opportunity to work with you. You've been incredibly professional. Your work ethic is second to none from what I can see, and I've just really enjoyed just thoroughly working with you. It's been fantastic. In my term last year as mayor, I spent a lot of time focused on economic development. I know that you've done a fantastic job with that particular department. Everything that you've done with the Saguaro property that we're finally getting to the end of. So many different issues that you've had your hands on. I've just been really impressed with your ability. I know a few of the people over in Anaheim, and I've already told them that what we're losing, they're gaining. I just wish you all the best and hope that you're successful in all your future endeavors.
Mayor Pro Tem.
So, David, we've only worked for 6 months or so together, but it's been a really good time. You've had how many different council briefings in closed session? Probably at least 10. So you're one of the staff members that we've actually interacted a lot with over the last 6 months, at least from my perspective. Definitely have appreciated, we've talked on the phone, and you've answered questions and brought me up to speed on whatever issues there were that were facing the city that we had the opportunity to discuss. So really feel like a bond between us, and wish you the best in Anaheim, and sad to see you go. There's still no chance you could stay, right? Any chance you could reconsider?
Councilman Gardner.
As you know, I wasn't always on the council. There was quite a long time I was out there with the public, and I was a thorn, I think, in David's side on occasions. And but you have no idea how hard this guy works, and how many things he does, and how I'm a pain in the ass. There's no question about you. Ask any staff member here. There's Tom, Scott. I'm a pain in the ass. I'm asking them, do this, do that, give me this information. I don't understand that. Why did you do this? I am a pain in the butt. This is better. And David has been terrific. He's done everything, overdone everything, gone out of his way, over-answered question. Really going to miss him. Please come back.
Councilman Nick.
My father used to say, live, laugh, and love every day as if it is your last day. One day it will be your last day. Every time I leave here, every night, I make sure that I personally shake hands with several individuals. David has been one of them. I have cherished every moment with him. Quite a while before I became a councilman. I cannot find the words to express how impressive, how exceptional this man is, how hard he works. I certainly hope this is not the last day that I am in the same room with him. I truly wish him the best life has, today, tomorrow, and to the end of time. I can promise you, and you already know this, we are a better city today because of him. That you know, my friends. Thank you for everything, David. I wish you the best in your future endeavors. And up to now, I really enjoyed when I was in Anaheim. By now, I'm not so sure. They took you away. The best to you, my friend. Thank you for your time.
And nothing further? That brings us to our El Toro Student Liaison. Joseph Hanna. Oh, we have a fill-in.
Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry, Mr. Bellmer, that Joseph couldn't be here one last time for one last presentation, so I'll have to do. Well, good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Tyler Smith, El Toro School Board Rep, filling in for Joseph Hanna tonight on Tuesday, May 19th, 2015. No, the senioritis has not hit Joseph. He is performing tonight in the El Toro Vocal Music Spring Concert. The theme is All You Need Is Love. You can see Joseph and the rest of El Toro's concert choir, award-winning choralistics, and soundstation perform tonight, tomorrow, and Thursday. Admission is $10. Huge congratulations to our Charger track and field athletes for qualifying for CIF finals. Matt James in the shot put, Kai McCullough, Paula Pajani, Malia Medley, and Sierra Castles in the 4x100, and Caitlin Johnson in the long jump. We wish them the best as they travel to Cerritos this Thursday. Just last Friday, we had our final pep rally of this year. The theme was the Class of 2015's 50-year reunion set in the year 2065. All of ASB dressed up like senior citizens as we passed on the ASB torch from Camila Martinez to Sam Weisk, followed by a performance from our award-winning drumline, a class competition, and ending with the performance from Male Cheer 2015, the best male cheer group El Toro has ever seen. I'm not saying this because Joseph was the captain, but they really did make the pep rally a barn burner. As a final salute to our graduating class, the seniors left their final pep rally as their baccalaureate song played. I can assure you, cheers were everywhere, mostly from me. Joseph will be here next time to introduce the new City Council Liaison. It was such an honor and pleasure to be here. I can see why Joseph has the best job in ASB. That's all for tonight, and until next time, this is Tyler Smith signing off. And as always, go Chargers. Thank you.
At this time, it brings us to public comments. Members of the public may address the City Council regarding any items within the subject matter of the City Council. No action shall be taken on items not listed on the agenda unless authorized by law. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person and an overall time limit of 30 minutes for public comment portion of the agenda. Any person wishing to address the City Council on any matter, whether or not it appears on the agenda, is requested to complete a request to speak form by the door and complete the form and submit it to the City Clerk prior to the individual being heard by the City Council. Madam Clerk, have we had any requests to speak?
Yes, Tom Cagley.
Good evening, Your Honor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. I am Tom Cagley. I live in Lake Forest. I may be getting dangerously close to being sounding like Chico Little on this issue, but I was pleased to see the presentation of Irvine Ranch Water District for the use of recycled water at Lake Forest Sports Park. The current grand jury has issued a report on how increasing water recycling is a win-win for Orange County. I have provided a copy of that report to the council members. There are some additional copies on a table back by the wall if other people in the audience want to see it. Today's Register, there's an article on our neighbor, Mission Viejo, and that city council's plan to vote on replacing the freshwater Lake Mission Viejo with reclaimed water. The article said that that lake loses approximately 500 gallons of water a day to evaporation. That number seems incredible. But if we use that same ratio of our 35 acres in Lake Forest 2 loses 140,000 gallons of water a day in evaporation. Again, I don't know the validity of this comment. It's just what I read in the paper. We need to consider changing out the water in Village Pond, Hidden Lake, formerly Lake Forest 1, and Lake Forest 2. This would be beneficial in the short and long run and alleviate some of the water increases that will be needed because of the result of development in and around Lake Forest. As you know, Irvine's building another 10,000 homes. Mission Viejo is putting 14,000 more. We're putting 5,000 to 6,000 here. So there's going to be a demand for water at a time in one of the most serious droughts in the state's history. The article further said that Irvine and Fulton City Councils are concerned to change from freshwater recycled water in their man-made lakes and recreational lakes. I would hope to see it on Lake Forest City Council agenda in the near future. I understand that this is up to the HOAs to vote for, fund, and support this. However, with 3 of our council members living in the HOAs with these lakes, as well as at least 2 members of the Planning Commission, perhaps a little persuasion from these friendly bully pull-ups would be helpful in getting their support. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
There have been no further requests.
Okay, and at this time, I would receive a motion considering the people that are waiting for an item.
Yeah, I was just thinking that we'd move up item 20, which is the permit parking, because I can tell there's probably a few people in the audience who are here to speak on that. I don't want them to have to wait an hour to get to that item. So.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, and then Councilman, cast your votes.
That motion carried unanimously.
Okay, so at this time we will hear item number 20.
Agenda item 20, establishment of permit parking restrictions on Avalon, Noland, Larkin, and Oswego streets, submitted by Director of Public Works, City Engineer.
Mr. Members of the Council, I'll turn this over to Mr. Wheeler for staff presentation on the item.
Thank you. And
thank you.
I'm sure I'm not the first person to wish you all a happy Public Works Week. I'm sure you've been wished that many, many times this week already, but let me be one of them. Thank you. Tonight staff is recommending a permit parking to be implemented on the streets of Avalon, Noland, Larkin, and Oswego. The city has requested parking relief from those neighbors, from the neighborhood. In fact, the city has received requests over the course of about the last 10 years in this particular area. The city surveyed the residents in both 2004 and 2008. It did not meet the requirements at those times. Interestingly enough, in 2004, the city did support putting in permit parking with the track directly across from the Eves apartments, which is the area in issue. So the Eves apartment, to give you a little context, and I'm looking to see if we can put the picture up there on the screen, but it is on page 495, attachment 2 in your report. I'll show you the area, but the area across the street from the Eves is located at Lake Forest and Muirlands. That's an apartment complex. Staff has been out there numerous times on weekends, weeknights, during the day to confirm that, one, they are fully parked, they're full, and two, to confirm that they are in fact impacting the neighborhoods around them. So staff, again, based on those complaints, went out, followed our process and our procedure. We surveyed the residents. The first survey came back, we got a response rate of 41% from the area in general. We did receive a 72% approval rating from the street, Avalon itself. We went out to meet with the residents to better explain the permit parking, to listen to them, what their concerns were. And I think there's potentially some misunderstanding about how the process worked and what exactly was entailed with permit parking. So after that meeting with the residents, it was very positive. The residents asked us to resurvey again, and we did. And we received a two-thirds majority vote on the remaining streets for a total for that area of 69%. That area meets all of our requirements, 1,000 feet of impacted street footage requirements. Staff has been in contact with the management at the Eves Apartments. They're supportive of the city's efforts. They feel that they've maxed out their everything they can do to maximize parking on their side. Therefore, Avalon, Noland, Larkin, and Oswego meet the criteria that the city has established. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the proposed resolutions. Doug Anderson and staff are available and here to answer any questions you may have. I know that there's a number of residents also that would appreciate speaking on this issue.
All right. At this time, I'll open it up to council members. Do you have any?
Just one question. If I read the staff report correctly, there was just one no vote. The rest of the votes were just essentially non-votes at all, and we just count them as no votes. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, anytime we don't receive any vote, we just count that as a no vote. We had one no vote. All the rest were all in the affirmative.
All right. And that was, I think, 33, as I read correctly, affirmative votes?
I believe so.
So it's essentially of those that voted, it was about a 96%, 97% rate.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Councilman Gardner?
How many people from the apartment building voted?
None.
Well, we didn't get the apartment building
We
vote.
did not ask them to vote on this.
Okay. We've done permit parking in several times before, and I always thought it was a good idea. And not so long ago, from two different areas in which we did permit parking, I heard from residents that the effect of the permit parking was to increase the use of garages for storage by the people who had the new permits. And so that concerned me, because in my mind, city streets are, it's the right of everybody to park in a city street. And in the case of permit parking, we're taking away the right of people to park on a city street. So we're taking away somebody's rights. And to me, and I know to each of you, that's a pretty serious thing to do. So I was heightened, or my awareness was heightened, to look at the consideration of the extent to which the people asking for a permit were in fact using their garages and driveways fully and not using them for storage. And so that, was a clear case in my mind that they needed this kind of protection. We needed to deprive other people of the right. So it was my hope that we would have had this discussion before a group came before us, so that we might have modified the permit process. But, there's plenty of other things on the agenda, so this didn't get to us. So we've already got a case in front of us, which is my long-winded way of asking you the question. Do you have any idea what the usage is of garages and driveways on these streets?
No. No, we can't go onto private property. We don't do that, and so no.
Okay. Would it surprise you to learn that without going on private property, I drove these streets just to see whose garages were open and whose weren't, whose driveways were full, whose weren't, just as a citizen driving around. And what I found, I only found 5 garages that were open. And I did this over several days. There's people that they would keep their garage doors closed. God bless them. That's a good, safe thing to do. So nobody walks into your house. I keep my garage door closed too. Anyway, I found of the 5 garages that I found in the area, and what are there, like 70 or 80? So it's a very small percentage. But of those, 2 were completely full of storage material. 2 of them were half full. Half of the garage was full and the other half was open, and 1 was completely free. So that, there's people were in that area pretty much using, from that limited sample, using the garages for storage. I also found in the driveways, I found three driveways in addition to everything else I found, which were what I'm called in my notes half-blocked, to the extent that if a car is stored in a driveway or a boat is stored in a driveway, then it's pretty obvious that other half of the garage probably can't be used either. And there's certainly nothing, I have nothing against people storing garages or cars or boats in driveways. But it seemed to me that the space allocated to those homes, which is 2 garage spaces and 2 driveway spaces, if they were being fully utilized by the people, I'd have a lot of sympathy for their request for more, to take away the rights of other people to park. But to the extent that, these garages and the driveways are not being used for parking, I'd be hesitant to go ahead and deprive those other people. So.
In 2010, we actually came forth with our first permit parking. I think it was Midcrest off of Pittsburgh and Lake Forest, and it was a request from the residents to mitigate the problem of people parking and leaving trash on their streets as they left their cars and smoked their cigarettes and walked into the apartment complexes that were surrounding them. I don't belittle people for parking on public streets, but what I do support the fact that we as residents don't have to come home and expect that the same car is parked in front of our house every afternoon, every evening, and parked there all night long. I'm very supportive of the residents' wants to have not continue cluttered when you try to take your trash cans out and not have a room to put your trash cans out. So I think it's your survey clearly states that we've done our due diligence to make sure your community is in support of this. And I think that my question to staff would be, there's a street that's adjacent to here, Emerson. Was that also surveyed?
Emerson and that whole Woodleaf track, starting on Emerson and the other streets, already has permit parking. So that was instituted back in 2004 for that track.
Because when you move into a community that is multifamily, you get designated spaces for you, and the fact is that the complex itself is supposed to have overflow to where they are supposed to park in their own street. So public parking is for public parking, but the fact that when we have to mitigate and step in and allow the residents to at least come home and expect to sometimes see no car parked in front of their house is a good thing. I know that when I come home and there's some strange car parked, the first thing that kind of runs through my mind is, gosh, who's parked in front of my house? And obviously, but that's something that happens rarely, maybe when the concerts in the park are going on and stuff, but it's something that I don't expect to see every day in and out. And so I'm in support of the motion, and I'll move staff recommendation and open it up for council discussion. Oh, yeah. At this time, we'll receive public comments, so please, if Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment?
Tracy Force, followed by Marty Ray Ortega.
Hi there. I'm Tracy Force. I live in Lake Forest. I live on Noland Street. And I'm in support of the measure. Just like the fire department has the Drowning Awareness Week for safety, I believe that this measure is in the best interest of safety of little children, and the visibility is strongly diminished with cars parked on both sides of the street. Even adults will come out in front of their cars and you don't even see them. So aside from, primarily that's my primary concern, but secondarily as a homeowner, and I pay property taxes, I don't feel like the property or the apartment complex residents have the right to park there. Their address is Lake Forest Drive, not Oswego Drive, and they don't pay property taxes, and I do, and I have to keep my property value the way it should be. I feel like we've lost property values with the trash and the degradation in the neighborhood. Thanks.
Thank you.
Marty Ray Ortega, followed by Ryan Force.
Hello. I currently live at 22801 Avalon. I'm on the corner of which all this activity pretty much, takes place. It's not a matter of just the excessive parking, like Tracy mentioned. I have some photos, if I could leave them with you and pass around. Apartment complex, they leave their poop. Apartment complex, they leave their beer cans when they exit their car. Apartment complex leaves their trash. I am a very strong advocate of this, and I fully support the permit parking. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ryan Force, followed by Virginia Nowinski.
Good evening. Ryan Force. I live on Noland Street, 22795, and I'm in support of the permit parking. However, I do not think the apartment should be allowed to park on Oswego. I was just wondering if, in your travels, if you happen to go inside the apartment complex and drive around and look to see if any of their garages were used for storage.
Yeah, me, please.
I've been in their complex, and not recently, though. When I was in it, I didn't see any storage, but I haven't been in there recently.
Okay, because we've spoken to the apartment complex, and they've told us that there's enough parking for every person in that complex, so I don't understand why they're all parking up and down Oswego and making it dangerous for my kids. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Virginia Nowinski, followed by Brian Sands.
Good afternoon, and I'm so glad that you took our voice under consideration. If you don't like Anaheim, please come back.
We agree with that.
So anyway, concerning about the parking, it's a car in front of my property, and also on the other side, which is not enough space. When I want to get out of the garage, I park my car in the garage. It's what the garage is they built for, no storage. So therefore, sometimes my neighbor, Brian, they help me back out my car because there's no space to even get out. So thank you so much for your concern, and I should appreciate very, very much, especially Doug. Where's Doug? Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Brian Sands, followed by Vincent Burke.
Good evening. I live on the end, at the back end of the cul-de-sac on Avalon. I don't have any space in front of my house to park. I actually have space that I could put sometimes 3 cars if they're small. My elder parents were down last year in December. I put their car in my driveway. I had to park all the way around the corner down almost to Aspen because there's no parking because of all the people that are parking from the apartments that were on our street and on Oswego. We got to do something about this. I fear for my grandkids being there playing. I don't let them play unless I'm standing there because there are so many people coming around and driving through there without paying attention. So please let this pass.
Thank you.
Vincent Burke, followed by Clanubia Dalby.
Good evening, Vincent Burke, Lake Forest. The first speaker mentioned that the people in the apartments don't pay property taxes. Oh, yes, they do. It's in that rent check that they pay every month. That covers part of those property taxes. So they are taxpayers. They have an entitlement to the public streets. Now, I do not oppose discretionary permit parking. Never have. But I have experienced its abuses. Like Councilmember Gardner, I have walked some of these neighborhoods just adjacent to the condominiums where I live, and I am a board member. I have seen the storage front to back with stacks of boxes with nice rows in between. I have seen the people that have turned the garages into dens with nice couches and big screen TVs and refrigerators and all the luxuries you should have inside your home, but instead it is in their garage. Take a trip sometime during the summer when those garage doors are open, you'll see a lot more of this. The whole issue for me comes down to simply enforcement of the city's municipal code, Chapter 9.168, which in regards to garage usage. If a garage is meant to store 2 vehicles, then 2 vehicles should be stored in there. The people in the apartments are not asking for special dispensation from the city council. However, on the neighboring streets they are in the form of these permits. Therefore, anyone asking for this special dispensation should be also required to comply with city municipal code. And that is to verify that they are using their garages appropriately, properly, so that, they are not essentially cheating the neighboring higher density properties. Now, the higher density properties may also be using garages inappropriately. I have experienced that, and I have been at loggerheads with my other board members in regards to this issue where I live. Unfortunately, I'm only 1 vote out of 5. But permits for public the streets, I am fine with, but there need to be some strings attached with issuance and compliance and maintenance of those permits. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Clanubia Dalvi, followed by Cristiano Dalvi.
My wife doesn't speak very well English, so she asked me to speak for her, if you don't mind.
Okay, please, you may.
All right. So we live at Oswego Street, 23972, and we support the parking. We do use our garage for our cars. We don't use it as storage. And sometimes when we are going to put the trash cans, we have some difficulties in front of our house. So that's what our comment.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Monica Brillhart, followed by Tim Brillhart.
Hello, my name is Monica Brillhart, and we live on Oswego Street, and I want to thank the city for hearing our concerns and for involving us in this decision, and I am in full support. Like I said, I live on Oswego Street, halfway down the street, and it is common for us to find a different car parked in front of our house in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, at all different hours. I should mention that we do use our garage for our cars, and the issue is, like one of our neighbors mentioned, the trash cans, not being able to set out our trash cans where they belong for the trash to be picked up, as well as parking for when our visitors come. There's been many a times when our friends have had to park either way down the street or in a cul-de-sac at a very inconvenient place. So I'm in full support of it.
Thank you so much.
Tim Brillhart, followed by Stan Yombo.
Good evening, council members, Mayor Voigt. I appreciate the council hearing this topic. It's probably not the most popular topic, I guess, but I did want to show up and give my support for the parking permit. And if I could just address Councilman Gardner, we have a 2-car garage, and we park both of our cars in the garage. So just to reiterate, we are pretty heavily impacted by the parking from the apartment complex. Many times late in the evenings, I see the residents parking along Oswego Street and then walking to the apartment complex. So it is confirmed that that is where the impact is coming from, as well as there are many mornings I wake up to trash on the street. So it is an issue, and so therefore I'm here to support that permit process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stan Yambo.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, good evening, staff member. I want to start by thanking David. Don't go, that's all I'm going to say. But I think it's a good decision, so I will respect that. I'm not against the resolution, of course, but something I noticed is like some people trying to separate the homeowners and apartment renters. We are the same community. We live in Lake Forest. We want to protect Lake Forest. Now, my problem is this. We are responsible, homeowners, apartment renters. But everybody needs to be responsible and accountable. The problem is not just Oswego and all the other street. It's the entire Lake Forest. When I drive from the 105 or 45 coming this way, when you pass by Eve, the Pittsford, Osterman, not even Osterman, there is a problem with parking. So I don't think it's just one issue on one corner. I believe it's the entire Lake Forest. So we need to solve the problem and put all the homeowners and the complexes accountable. I'll give an example. One day I went to the gym, worked my legs, get home at midnight looking for parking in my complex. I can't find one. But this is the problem. If I park on the street, I need to walk uphill. So I had to stay in my car for an hour because I didn't want to go downhill. But what I'm trying to say is like, Tom, thank you. I work hard, Tom. So what I'm trying to say, instead of just focusing on that particular area, I think we need to put everybody accountable. If there is something to enforce, we need to enforce that. So anybody who comes home at 6 p.m., 6 a.m., midnight, find a parking and feel comfortable staying in Lake Forest. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
There have been no further requests.
All right. There is a question.
Yeah, and I appreciate what you've all said, and also Stan, that we're all in this together. And one of the problems is, I think along the way, we never thought there'd be so many cars per unit. You know, you thought that Eve's apartment place has 360 parking spots, and I went on the street and I counted the parking spots that are on the street. And there's about another 60 there, depending upon your size of your car. That means there's less than 2 parking spots for everybody in that apartment complex. It's 220 units, and even with the street, there's only about 400 parking spots. So, and following up on what Stan said, I think we need to do, and maybe this should be directed to Ron or Gail, but we need to do a better job than in planning. If people are going to have 2 to 4 cars per unit, then we can't be building and allowing apartment complexes that have less than 2 cars per building. Which brings up my question: if we go ahead and grant the permit, where are the people from the apartment building going to go? So, given that and they can't go on Muirlands because Muirlands is protected. So where will they go?
Thank you. Well, we suspect certainly there are still areas of Oswego that you can park on. That's already heavily parked, we've heard, so they'll certainly stay there. Also across from Lake Forest Drive is the commercial and industrial areas. They can park in there on those streets. Where a number of them actually live, if you're looking at your map, it's actually closer. granted, you're crossing Lake Forest, so there's kind of a mental barrier, but we suspect they'd start moving that way, and that's where they'd go in the short term.
Thank you. If it would be okay, I was inclined to vote against the permit because of the use of the garages, but I only saw 5 garages, so it's really not fair to make that judgment. And I was hoping that we would have had that discussion prior in the council. So what I'd be comfortable with making a motion is to allow the permit, but for 1 year. And I think that's probably a good policy in general, rather than permitting something forever. And in that 1 year, maybe we have time to go look at how we want to tackle that issue.
I think that I made a motion, so it would be a substitute motion. I made a motion that we accept staff recommendation. I think that residents have the right to come home and not find litter and debris from people that are respecting the streets of private communities. And so the fact is, these people have been putting up with that. So I think that the motion that's on the table is to accept staff recommendation as is.
And I'll second your motion. And I'd like a chance to have discussion at some point, too.
Please, I'm opening up the discussion right now.
So I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I think it's a very important issue. If you have a property that impacts your neighborhood, that's how I feel like the situation is here tonight. And there's lots of times where people say you should do this, right? You should park your car in the garage. Well, you should eat a well-balanced meal. You should exercise. And there's all these shoulds that people say about you, and I don't want to should on you tonight. So I think you have lots of people saying things, and so I think government's responsibility is to not tell you how to live your life. And we're here to help you, actually, and so that's why I'm in support of this. And I don't want and I think your name is Virginia. Do you remember this picture of you and I? Yes. It was approximately 6 months ago or so. I was trying to get it over to my so I came and visited you almost 6 months ago, and I had a great conversation with you, so I wanted to also point that out. But I think it's important to support this, and I did walk that area within the last 6 months. I think it's a really neat area. You've got a lot of natural walking places. You can walk across to the Mimi's quite easily. There's a nice park that is very close to you, and I think it's a great area. But I did see a lot of trash along the street, too, so I think... Well, we have a street sweeping contract that we're going to be talking about a little later tonight that maybe could help out in that area too. But anyway, I just think the world of the residents of this area. I met a lot of you. I really appreciated getting to know you the last 6 months. Oh, here it is. It just came up. There's a little bit bigger picture of you and I, Virginia. So, in any case, I support that, and as staff's recommendation, I think it's important that governments stay out of your lives and we actually try and help. So that's where I'm at here tonight.
If I may point out the paradox in Mayor Pro Tem Hamilton's logic, you want the government to stay out of their life, but you don't mind the government restricting where 220 people can park their cars. So that makes no sense to me. Can you explain your reasoning?
Sure. I think that those property owners in the apartment, they have parking. They have an area for them to use. And since it's now impacting another part of the city, I think those residents have every right, and we have a process for them to go to, for them to petition the city, and for them to ask for permit parking. And it's something that's been established, and I think it helps the residents in that area not have the impacts. So if someone were to build like a a large, say we were a beach community and someone were to build a large structure between my view and the beach, I think that would have an impact to my property. So this is something that impacts their neighborhood, it impacts their property. So that's why I think that's an important reason to move forward with this.
I understand, and you're worried, as am I, the impact on 70 homes and what that's doing to the people. On the other hand, you're going to have an impact on 220 homes by restricting those people and taking away their right to use a city street. That's the paradox I'm pointing out.
Well, if the apartment complex would open up their parking to the residents here, that's something that the apartment complex uses the parking in front of their homes. Why couldn't they then use the parking in the apartment complex? Based on
There's obviously not enough room for anybody to be used. The apartment, which we've said, that problem has been caused by bad planning, but it's a problem we have to live with.
Okay. Councilman Nick?
I want to thank everyone for caring enough to be here tonight to express their opinions. We heard you loud and clear. I concur with you. I even concur with you, Mr. Vincent. I apologize. I forgot the last name. I apologize. What you said was correct. Technically, everybody pays tax, whether you pay it directly to the county tax collector or you pay it via your rent. That statement is factually correct. Being an accountant and an auditor, I fully realize that. On a bright note, let me thank everyone for being here. This is incredible how we decide this democracy, the founders of this country. I just cannot. I just hope that one day I don't wake up in the morning and realize the last 30 some odd years has been a dream. I never got to move to America. I never got to experience life like I have. I just hope it doesn't turn out to be a long dream. This is a dream. I'm living it. It got to be a little less perfect tonight with David departing, but I shall live. This may not be a perfect solution. It may not be a perfect solution. It's the only solution. So as imperfect as it may be, I don't see any other choice. We can go about educating people to not use their garage spaces for storage. We can do all that. I'm not sure how much of that is government's business. Associations and apartment complexes, management offices, they can go about enforcing that provision. I have a few condominiums in the Orange County and LA area. I have 3 condominiums in Footy Ranch, and in fact, early June, twice a year, they send somebody to literally inspect the garage. So parking is never an issue. But that can't happen everywhere. That is not happening everywhere. Given all that, again, this may not be a perfect solution for one reason or another, but at this point, it's the only solution. And I have a world of respect for Dr. Gardner. God knows I have a world of respect for him. This council and this city is much better because of him. But I don't think I want to do this for a 1-year trial and then revisit this 1 year from now. I don't want to be pessimistic, but I don't think 1 year from now or 2 years from now anything would have changed. I just want to do this right now. Hopefully it'll fix the problem. Hopefully it will not just put the problem a couple of blocks down. Hopefully it'll fix it. It probably will. But even if it doesn't, this is the only solution at this point that I can think of. Let's do it permanently for now. Well, nothing's permanent in life, but let's do it not temporarily, not for a year or two. And if things change, things develop otherwise, we will take the appropriate action. Tonight, it seems to me this is the appropriate action to take. Thank you for listening to me.
Councilman Robinson.
This specific item seems like a no-brainer to me, so I'm not going to elaborate any further. I just had a question. When was the eaves built?
I know the eaves was built before city incorporation, so it was done under the county. I'm not exactly sure when. It wasn't parked to the same standards that we have now. The parking ratio wasn't the same, so it was back in the county days, which is one of the reasons why the city wanted to incorporate and have those kinds of controls.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, we understand the complex was built in 1975.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. That was the year I was born, actually. So, you know, they've done a decent job with the facade because it looks a lot better than I do. So, you know, again, like was mentioned, I mean, that's the reason why we incorporated, so we could make some of these decisions ourselves. You know, I hope that, you know, as we talk about some of those long-term solutions, like Mr. Yambo, Mr. Burke, some of the other residents have mentioned that we'll be cognizant of the future impacts that development can have. So, you know, I think some of the non-single-family home developments that have been approved recently have been in areas that aren't adjacent to single-family homes. And, you know, I think that's really important. I'm not really sure about the Portola part, but because I don't know that development very well, but, you know, it's something that I'd like to watch closely. And I just want to thank you all for coming out. This is what it's all about. If in 1975, I don't know if any of you lived there, but if you, you know, if you would have had that opportunity, and it would have been a really long drive to go up to the County Board of Supervisors and talk to them, but this is what they need to hear. They need to hear the voice at that time. I understand where Mr. Gardner's coming from, that, you know, we have people who are living in this apartment complex where, you know, a change is occurring. It would have been a lot better if we could have petitioned our government, which at the time was the Board of Supervisors, and said, let's put permit parking in now before people move in, and then we make it very clear what the rules are. I think that, you know, we want to make sure that we balance the approach with everybody. There's clearly an imbalance that needs to be adjusted at this point. And then moving forward, you know, if we do have some apartment complexes, condominium complexes, I hope that we are judicious in our decision-making. We make sure that we're looking at those future impacts and making sure that we're making the right decisions. So thank you very much. I think there's a motion and a second.
So I'll call the vote. All those in favor?
That motion carried unanimously.
I want to congratulate you guys and thank you for petitioning the city. Thank you for coming and speaking to us, and thank you for participating in the vote. And if you see me rolling through your street, I'm not looking in your garage or coming by to say hi. So good evening and thank you for coming and congratulations. That brings us to the warrant registry. Item number 9, all matters listed under the warrant registry are considered routine and will be enacted by one vote. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless members of the City Council, the public, or staff request specific items to be removed by the warrant registry for separate action. Have there been any requests to pull items?
We've had no requests.
Okay. Council, I'll take anything?
I'll move the warrant register.
Second.
All in favor?
That motion carries unanimously.
At this time, it will bring us to the consent calendar. Miscellaneous items number 7 through 19. All matters listed on the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one vote. There will be no separate action or discussion on these items unless a member of the City Council, the public, or staff requests specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Have there been any requests?
Item 10.
Item 10. Council?
19.
19. Jim?
And I'll move the remainder.
Second.
And all those in favor?
That motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 10, adoption of ordinance numbers 272, 273, and 274 relating to the park site at Baker Ranch development, submitted by City Clerk and removed from the consent calendar by member of the public. Jim Reichert.
Good evening, everyone. Jim Reichert. I live in Lake Forest. Couldn't stay late enough 2 weeks ago when you discussed this. I'm kind of torn on this. I know we need more housing in Orange County, but it just seems kind of strange, the process we're going through. We're amending the general plan, and we're amending it, seemed like kind of casually, like, oh, well, we want to build some houses, let's build some houses. And is that the best use of that property? Do we even know? Is it going to cause problems we're not even sure of? Traffic, noise, whatever. It just seems kind of strange because we just did the same thing up at the auto mall. We just changed the zoning and put more houses. Was that the best use of that property? It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The in-lieu fees for affordable housing, I don't know why we would do in-lieu fees, why the city would want to spend money on affordable housing rather than having the developer put in more affordable housing than the city can afford to do. It just seems kind of strange. The other thing is water. The people in my tract are letting their lawns die. They're putting in fake grass at considerable expense. And I know these homes are going to be more water efficient than what I live in and a lot of others, and they're going to have fake grass and all those things, but it just gives a really bad impression to the public to say, let's build more homes that we know we're going to use more net water than not doing anything or the previous zoning. That just seems really strange to me. And the other thing is, I'm not sure why anybody would want to buy or build homes right next to a freeway, toll road. The traffic noise has got to be pretty severe. And in the report from the staff, it says it needs to be mitigated, but there's no way to mitigate it. So for that reason, this whole thing just doesn't seem right to me. And I think maybe what would be a better deal than approving it or not approving it is put it off for a year, see how the water situation goes for, next fall. And are we going to have more water? Those kind of things. What are the impacts on all the other housing traffic going to be? And those kind of things. That's my recommendation. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. And bring it back to council.
Yeah, I have a question for...
Okay, go ahead. We can hear council. Mr. Tucker, if you could wait until after council comments. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
I think he needs...
No, it's mayor's prerogative. He just turned his constant, so I brought it back to council.
Okay. Should we hear the public first before we discuss? Or?
It's the mayor's prerogative.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
I have a question for David. I'm going to work you right up till the end, right up till Thursday. This is actually a question from former Councilman Bass, who couldn't be here with us tonight, but who wanted me to ask you the question. By our calculations previously, we figure with their in-lieu fees, we can get about 4 homes out of that. Maybe we squeeze 5. Whereas without the in-lieu fees, we might get 30. And this has been, we're talking about affordable homes now. And when I did that math, as Mr. Reichert also mentioned, that seems to me a bad deal. But I just looked at it as a bad deal. And what former Councilman Bass wanted me to ask was, assuming then the 4 or 5 and the 30, that leaves us with a deficit or an owing, a balance of 25 we have to make up. So given that amount, we were going to do 30. They're giving us in-lieu fees. We're doing 4 or 5, let's say 5. So now we've got to come up with 25. How are we going to fund that extra 25? Where's that going to come from?
Mayor, members of the council, just a couple points of clarification. The development agreements in the original OSA, the original 5 documents, the 2 of the smaller paid in lieu fees. The other three, Baker Ranch being one, Portola being the other, are providing their affordable housing on site. But all those documents allowed for a point system that set a ceiling of 15% and a floor of 8.5%. So when we talk about what numbers hypothetically might come out of the Baker Ranch properties, the 30-acre site, not Baker Ranch, but Baker Ranch properties, it likely might fall somewhere in between that range. So we can't necessarily assume it's going to be 38, which is really 37.5 rounded up to 38. It could be as low as 21. We are actually currently not, so where would the units come from and how would we pay for that? Well, we have quite a pool now of in lieu fees that have been paid to us by developers that the council and housing authority will use to create affordable housing in Lake Forest as the council and or housing authority deem it to be in the city's best interest to do that. And Saguaro is just one example of how that can be done. And certainly we know those units were expensive to create. But we also know that that's a very unique set of circumstances, that project. And if we were to do additional projects in the future, we're certainly hoping to create better circumstances and stretch those dollars even further. And this council has provided some general direction so far as to how we might go about doing that. Working with the Orange County Rescue Mission or Habitat for Humanity are just two examples of ways we might stretch those dollars even further. So difficult to say at this point if we could use Saguaro to translate an actual dollar spent into a unit created. But what is our current obligation? That's a fair question to ask. So is there a relationship between the 15% goal that's embodied in those development agreements and what the city's actual obligation is? The answer really is no. The city doesn't have an actual specified number of affordable housing units it must create. It's just a general plan goal that the council has implemented on a case-by-case basis given the unique circumstances of each project that has come before the council. In the case of Baker Ranch, where there's 2,300 units in total being built, and two multifamily rental projects, it was determined to be much easier, much more efficient to provide the units on site. And that's what's happening in the case of Portola. There's going to be a rental housing project there, determined to be much more efficient to provide them on site. As the developers indicated on this project, that's going to be for sale housing. So it would be very difficult, very, very expensive, for example, if the council were to impose a 38-unit obligation on this development of affordable housing and a for-sale project. I can't even calculate for you right now what that cost would be at this project. It would be extreme, far in excess of the affordable housing in lieu fees that are likely being paid here. And that's a policy question for the council to make. I think the council has made that decision in this regard. They've agreed in the development agreement to accept the in lieu fee, saying what is a reasonable affordable housing obligation to impose on this development, and then take that pool of money and use it as the housing authority and council deems appropriate to create affordable housing elsewhere in the community. So I hope that. So one last thing, the RENA. We've all heard the RENA obligation. And does that actually create a number that we must achieve? The answer really is no. What we have to do with the state is demonstrate that we're using good faith efforts to create affordable housing and to achieve as best we can our RENA obligation. And through our recently adopted housing element, we've been able to demonstrate that we have sufficient sites that those numbers over the next 8 to 10 year planning cycle would likely be achieved. We're certainly doing our part to try to make that happen through projects like Saguaro and other projects we'll do in the future. So
I think the number I used was 30 and not 38.
I was using 250 times 15. Worst case, it's 37.5, round up to 38. If you use the floor of 8.5%, it's approximately 21.
Okay, thank you.
Now, Councilman Robinson. Mr. Larry Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and members of the council. The Councilman Gardner loves to blog, and he uses these facts that aren't facts. And we've just heard that there is no obligation. At the last meeting, I pointed out to him specifically where this policy is in the housing element. And what it states, encourage residential developments to incorporate a minimum of 15% affordable units. Encourage, not require, encourage. And what has the city done to encourage 15% affordable units? Was it the $7 million of development fees? Is it $2 million of park and lieu fees? Is it, we have $1.8 million that we're paying towards affordable housing? So the city has trade-offs. And I think the city's made some pretty great trade-offs. The city chose not to focus so much on affordable housing, but to get a sports park, to get a city hall so that you don't have to rent here, to have a senior center. There's a pot of money that's available for the city to choose how to spend from each development project. Each one of us contributes towards the betterment of the city in different fashions. In our particular case, it was not 15% affordable housing. I don't really think that this project makes any sense for affordable housing. I might add, as I added last time, we originally proposed apartments. If we had done apartments, as you heard Mr. Bellmer refer to, it would have been fairly easy to have done a pretty good amount of affordable housing. That's where you do affordable housing. You don't put affordable housing in a for-sale project where people have spent their life savings in many cases. They want to be surrounded by housing that's just like their housing. So it's important to keep in mind, what's going on with affordable housing. Now, we've had this hearing before. These very same topics were brought up. We talked about affordable housing before. And now we have another speaker get up that wants to have the hearing because he couldn't stick around for the last hearing. He wants to talk about water, traffic, and noise, and of course, he doesn't think it would be a good idea to have housing there because he can't imagine living there himself, and we invite him not to choose to live there. But there will be plenty of people that do want to live there. So we hope that you'll move forward, do the second reading, and we'll just move on with life. We've had the hearing before. Everybody had their chance to speak. 21 people, residents, longtime residents, many spoke in favor. 2 spoke against. Now we've got a third speaking against. So that's where we are. We hope with that you'll go ahead and pass the second reading. Thank you.
I'll move the item.
We have one more request to speak.
Okay.
Lisa Pittman.
Hi, I'm Lisa Pittman. I've been a resident of Foothill Ranch since 1994, and I was here last couple weeks ago when we had the talk about rezoning from commercial to residential, and I'm grateful that you guys chose to rezone that. I think it's an excellent idea. After that meeting, I did take another look around Lake Forest and Foothill Ranch. We have so many sandwich shops. We have so many coffee shops. So many of them are empty. So I'm really glad you decided to put that residential Parkside at Baker Ranch at Parkside there. I think it's an excellent idea to do that. It will get filled up, and it'll bring more people to the city to go to the sandwich shops that we have, to spend their money in the city of Lake Forest. Dr. Gardner, I liked your idea of a putt-putt, but not there, not across the street from the sports park. I think it should be down by the bowling alley, closer to the freeway. I would encourage something like that down there by the freeway. It's like they have in Irvine, where there's a Boomers. I think that would be an excellent idea down there. And as far as affordable housing, it's 250 units. I don't think that we want any affordable housing in that particular location. Especially, I've heard tonight the word gem of a park. The 80-acre park that was just built. I watched it being built. It's the gem of the city of Lake Forest. I encourage you not to put affordable housing there. It does bring in riffraff, and we're going to see more graffiti across the street at that park. Keep it a nice little community, gated community for families to live there, and I know it'll sell quick. When I first bought my first home here in Foothill Ranch in the Vineyards, it's the same type of community. It wasn't gated, but it's a small little community. And my kids were little, and we moved in there, and we're all, I met a lot of people there, and we were our first-time home buyers. And I would think that that's what's going to happen in this community, too. So I would encourage you to not put affordable housing in that parkside at Baker Ranch. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. And with that, I'll second the motion and call the vote. All those in favor?
Can I just have 10 more seconds of discussion?
Yeah, 10 more seconds.
So I'm going to recap what we said 2 weeks ago. I quoted an article from Irvine Ranch Water District that said it would rain again, and they supported development. Traffic is going down about 6 times from what the permitted is. It's across from the sports park, so large trucks and retail are going to would have a big impact, whereas the housing wouldn't. And one additional item I wanted to just say were all those suggestions that they had, some of the speakers and others about miniature golf, batting cages. I think there was even a sports medicine. All those would be commercial, but they would not be taxable. None of those sales would help the city of Lake Forest whatsoever in our revenue. They would all be non-taxable. And what we have right now is we've got a developer who wants to come in. It's going to increase the tax base and increase the coffers, that, as he mentioned. So there's your 30-second recap.
Thank you. And with that, I call the vote. All those in favor?
Councilmember Nick, I'm showing your vote not registering. Thank you. That motion carried 3-2 with Councilmembers Gardner and Nick opposed.
Congratulations. Thank you. Welcome to Lake Forest. Okay. Let's bring this.
Agenda item 19, award of contract for street sweeping services, submitted by Director of Public Works, City Engineer, and removed from the consent calendar by Councilmember Gardner.
Yeah, I think we got our cross purposes, and I even reviewed the minutes and the tape, just to be sure. When we were originally, the group came from residents. The original suggestion didn't come from me, but I thought it was a good idea. And Bob Hoslaw spoke at the dais, as a matter of fact. He's still here. And the idea then was to mostly to save costs, and it turned out to be considerable costs, half the year to continue sweeping as we do weekly, and the other half of the year being the half of the year when the leaves don't fall as much, to do it every other week. So that would have meant, and I happened to be at a meeting with the IRWD, and I asked them about this. Unfortunately, Mr. Tucker left because he would remind us that this is hearsay. Nonetheless, when I asked IRWD, in those cities in which they had, the biweekly versus the weekly, was that making a difference in terms of storm drain, et cetera, et cetera? He said, no, it really didn't make a difference. Hearsay, I admit, but personally, and joke. Anyhow, so that would be 39. So we'd have 26 weeks, half the year. You'd do it each week. That's 26 times. And then for the other 26 weeks, you'd do it half the time. That's 13, which would be 39, which is what Bob originally suggested, and which is what I then asked for, and then Councilman Mayor Pro Tem Hamilton called it A and B. But when I look at the, from what I can tell, of the proposal, of the RFP that went out, and then what we got back, we got the 52-week version, which is what we have now, but then we have the bi-monthly, which comes out to be 24, twice a month. So that there's a big difference between the 24 and the 39. The reason I liked the 39, and I'm not so crazy about the 24, is I felt as if we're doing a 52 now, that to jump from 52 to 24 seems to me to be a pretty big jump all at once. And so I was much more comfortable with the idea of going from 52 to 39 and seeing how much that saved. But I think 24 is just too much of a jump to be going to. So I would, if it's somehow possible, I'd like to get a figure for that 39 option, not the bi-monthly. I don't think we should go immediately to, the 24, and it looks like the 39 would be somewhere in between, but it comes to a savings over the contract of $200,000. So that's a pretty good piece of change for something that really won't make that much of a difference.
Actually, we wouldn't actually know if it's $200,000 right now, because the fact is we don't have a 39 number. I think that 39 is reasonable, but the fact is what's before us is every week or every other week, and according to the twice a month. And so I think that's what's before us is every week, which the residents of Lake Forest have spoken in favor of because of their because of the surveys that have been done, and then to take back and to take that and diminish service, I think would be detrimental to the quality of service that our residents expect. Yeah, Councilman Robson.
Oh, go ahead.
When you say the residents, are you referring to specific residents, or are you referring to the city survey? Or?
Sorry, no, it's city survey.
City survey, okay. And if I recall the numbers, it's 96% approval rating from the city survey of street sweeping. I see what we're trying to accomplish here. I just think that, the basic services that residents expect, and that something that affects the entire community, are our infrastructure, it's roads, it's schools, not necessarily from us, but schools in a community. It's how clean those roads are, how well they're paved, everything that reminds us that it's Public Works Week. Excuse me. I've looked at this issue from a bunch of different angles. When you guys first brought this up, I actually wasn't supportive at all. I wasn't part of the consensus. So the reason why is that, in my mind, it just creates a lot of chaos in the community. Can we save money if we go to 45 weeks, 39 weeks, 35 weeks? I would guess that it probably doesn't scale exactly down, but there's some savings if we do that. But do we have the same impact? That's my concern, right? Because now I'm a resident trying to figure out, okay, I know I get my trash picked up every single Tuesday for me, which means the street sweeper comes every Wednesday morning. But at 39 weeks, now I've got to look at this calendar that's... Now, the easiest way to do it would be to put it on your trash can. It'll come the next day, but I've still got to follow that. Right now, it's very simple for me. My concern becomes not just I bring in the trash can, but if my brother's visiting and he's parked out on the street, I have to remind him, and how does that all work? And so, do we get the same effective cleaning of the streets? I don't feel that. I feel it's just going to cause some confusion and chaos. So there's not enough information for me looking at how other cities do it for me to be supportive of anything less than a 52-week. So at this point, I'm just going to move the staff recommendation, throw out the motion, see if I can get a second.
And I will second that.
Okay, I'd like to discuss some things. Number one, half the cities in Orange County are doing it, so apparently it works for them.
Not actually, according to the...
15 out of...
15 out of 34.
Okay, almost half. Well, you didn't get a response from the other four, right? So you got 15, half that responded said okay. So half the cities that we know of get that. Point number one. Point number two, I can tell you, because I meet with people once a week, I have a town meeting once a month, and I blog every day with people. I can tell you that the quality of street sweeping is probably the number one issue that people find most problematic in the streets, and that's because they don't get their streets swept because there are cars in it. And there's no other issue that people talk to me about, and that's lots of people in lots of areas of the city. So, and I know what the survey says, but, the survey, et cetera. And then, finally, it looks like I'm never going to be able to please you, Councilman Robinson, and it upsets me. Last time we were here, you bemoaned that I was trying to save thousands, and that was too little for you. And tonight you're bemoaning again, I'm trying to save 200,000. So I need to know from you, how much do I have to try to save that I'm going to get your support? So I think 200,000, come on, even Dave says 200,000. Now that's a lot of change. 200,000 is a lot of money. I don't think that's small, and I don't think it's going to confuse anybody. The day is the day. That's the day. And if the fact is, if some weeks we're not there, just remember the day. I don't think it will confuse them. I'd like to see us go back. Well, we have a motion, so I'm opposed. I'd like to see the original thing that I requested, which was a quote on the 39-week proposal.
Just to briefly respond to that, it's government isn't here to turn a profit. It's not a business, right? It's here to provide services for a community, and that's what its core function is. So if we're going to talk about cutting, let's talk about things that aren't core functions of government and don't provide more value than their cost. So we'll do a cost-benefit analysis, okay? Now, if I want to cut well over $10 million out of my budget, then I'm just going to eliminate police services, which would be ludicrous because my entire community would devolve into complete chaos, right? So we understand that is one of the priorities that we have to provide for. Number two is infrastructure, right? And this is one of those things. Again, I've mentioned this a few times, but we have people who are buying homes in this community for over $1 million. The average home in this community is going for probably somewhere around $600,000. When I'm paying that kind of price for a place that I'm going to call home, I expect a certain level of service. We've talked about a lot of stuff. We talked about, I think in December, about cutting the frequency of trees, right? Let's not cut them so much. I don't want to cut back on core services. My big frustration with federal government and state government is that they don't spend money on the things they're supposed to, and they spend money on things that they're not supposed to, right? So our freeways are having problems. Why? Because the state has spent a bunch of money on things that shouldn't be core functions of the state, right? And so we've lost that. At the local community level, we can have that impact. So I want to make sure that we're providing those core services, right? Anything beyond that, I want to try to make sure that our reserves are as healthy as possible. And then, beyond that, if there's still something a little bit left over, we can talk about some of these excess things that a lot of cities can't do. But let's get to that point, right? I want to focus on the core first, and this is one of the core for me. That's why I don't support cutting. It's not that I don't support fiscal responsibility. I think this is part of that, providing the service that residents need, they require, they expect from us. And so that's why I don't support cutting this particular item. But if you want to come to me with some items that aren't core functions of government, and then the value, the benefit that we receive isn't more than the cost, right? Like a week ago we were talking about cutting a luncheon. I say the value that we get out of that, the benefit, is far surpasses the cost. That's why it didn't make sense for me to cut that. That's how I look at everything. It's how I look at it in my business. And when I ran for office, I said that's how I would vote and how I would act up here. So I don't think that there's anything that's that isn't consistent with what I've said on a number of occasions. So.
I actually had a phone call, a luncheon with a city councilman from a coastal city, and he asked me when we were discussing this how this would impact his city. He said, ask your public works or your attorney what the abbreviation NPDES stands for, and if you could please convey that to me and our audience, what's that acronym for?
Appropriate acronym for Public Works Week. We've got plenty of them. National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System. And it's the federal government's way of saying that we have to keep our creeks, our coastal lines, our storm drain systems clean. And so we're under several different requirements to do that. The state recently, in April actually, just amended and included more requirements to the statewide water quality control plan, which will require the city basically to prove how we're reducing trash going into the storm drain system. So that's one of the things. We know street sweeping is one of the most effective measures in reducing trash. We've been installing the trash screens to capture and prevent that trash from going in. That gets collected by the street sweepers. There's not a specific law that says we must sweep each week. It doesn't have a frequency associated with that, but it does have, like I said, we have to prove what we're doing. We have to prove that we're diligent and using best management practices to do that. I believe that the boards, the various water boards that we're in, would want to know why we are reducing services in that respect, and what we're doing to make up for that reduction in services, which making up for that could increase our costs, and depending on what the city chose to do to make up for some of those various things.
This councilman also said that they get the direct effect. It all ends up in his bay, what we don't do in our city. So that's why I seconded the motion and support this motion at every week. I appreciate the 39-week, but right now we have before us either an every week or every other week, and so or twice a month. And I don't think it's fair to any of those that participated to go out to bid again after the numbers have been shown. It's like showing your poker hand. So, Andrew Hamilton, Council, Mayor Pro Tem.
So I wanted to voice my appreciation to the speaker. You said it was Bob? What's Bob?
Yeah.
For out-of-the-box thinking. I think that's good. I think that brings some additional thought and consideration into our decision-making process. In reviewing the staff report, it said that there were 17 tons, if I'm not mistaken, of debris, trash, etc., per week. And so, just for everyone's benefit, I think the mayor was talking about storm drains and Newport Bay. So, when it rains, all that water, it just doesn't disappear somewhere. It goes into creeks through storm drains. And so I took a run this morning and crossed the Serrano Creek. And as I crossed in one location, I noticed a lot of trash. Then I noticed more trash as I just turned. I didn't have to walk along the creek. I was just walking across the path. And then I saw yet more trash. So I could have done a panorama to show all the trash, but just 3 different pictures. So it feels like to me that if we cut down on the and I think what is shown is I had an open mind toward doing less, but I think what is shown is that where's that 17 tons going to go? It has a lot more, a higher potential to get into the creeks that we have if we don't scoop it up faster. So I think this is a level of service type issue. So if we were to go to a lower service level, I don't know, maybe we could get volunteers to help clean up the trash on the streets, or go into the creeks like we have once a year, creek cleanup. I just don't know what other system could we implement to collect that trash that's going to end up in our creek. So
I think the fact is that 170 tons is not produced every week. There are some weeks when it's raining and when the leaves are falling, it's going to produce 300 tons. And then there's the weeks in which nothing's happening and nothing's falling, in which very little is done. Half the cities in Orange County are doing it bi-monthly, and I'm proposing a system that's actually 50% more than half the cities are satisfied with. And IRWD, who's our major provider here, is telling me that it wouldn't be a problem. So I understand what you're saying, I just don't agree with it.
Okay, Councilman Robinson.
I was done, but now I just want to rebut some of what's been discussed, and actually from both my colleagues here. The volume of trash is definitely important. The tonnage that's being hauled away. It doesn't rain a whole lot. I mean, I know we get a lot of sprinklers and people washing their cars and doing stuff like that, and water's going down into the storm drains, every single day. But what I'm most concerned about isn't those big pieces of trash. I would say that those are probably coming from people who are also jogging along the trail maybe and throwing their trail mix at wrapper, whatever it might be, kids in the creeks, things like that. I know that the chief could probably tell us, there's a certain homeless population that will spend some time there. I've been to the last, I think, 3 Aliso Creek cleanup days. I've found everything from like TVs circa 1975 that look like a piece of furniture, like a table in the middle of the creek. So clearly it's that's not coming through the storm drains, mattresses, all this different kind of stuff. What I'm more concerned about is the things that you can't see, right? It's not the leaves, it's not the branches, it's when my car, and not me personally, but when our cars are leaking oil, we don't want to park them in the driveway. So where do they end up? Well, they end up in the curb in front of our house until we can get that fixed, right? Whether it's brake fluid, it's oil, it's whatever it might be. That's what I'm most concerned about. That's what I'm concerned about for my kids, for myself to a certain extent, but long-term impact that's occurring to the environment. And that's why I think there's value in doing it every single week, because that stuff's happening all the time, right? I could understand what we were talking about if we were just talking about branches, and we've got certain sections that have lots of trees, and the leaves are falling off at certain times of the year, and so forth. But that's what I'm really concerned about. I think that's what's having the greater impact. If leaves and branches make it into the storm drain, and we've got a lot of catch basins all over town, so chances are those won't happen. Chip bags and paper cups, things like that, they can't get through those catch basins. But the thing that does get through are all these pollutants. So that's why it makes more sense for me that we do it every single week, because unfortunately there's oil leaking onto our streets every single day. It's not seasonal, and that's what's going to make it through. Again, those catch basins are what percentage of our storm drain spots, whatever, I don't know what they're called, but I should. Maybe there's a Public Works dictionary for the week or something that I could read. You can get me one, right? So, but how many of those do we have in town, and how many don't? If you just ballpark.
We have thousands of catch basins in town.
Okay, and we think percentage-wise, like the vast majority, if not close to, I don't know if you know that, but how many of those storm drains have the catch basins percentage-wise? Are we
have the screens in front of the
screens?
drains?
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Using the wrong terminology.
The screens, I believe 250 out of 1,500, 1,200 catch basins. So we're slowly getting there.
Yep. And I know that we've got a process to invest in more in that, and I'd be supportive of that, because that's going to solve a lot of these problems. But again, it's the things that I can't see that's what I'm most concerned about.
Councilman Nick?
I fully realize where Dr. Gardner's philosophy lies. It has to do with savings of $200,000, $250,000 a year. That's a lot of money. But if you think about it, how do I phrase this? If you think about it, it's not really savings. If you proportionately or somewhat proportionately get less and pay less, then you're not saving money. You're just getting less and you're paying less. I don't know if that makes sense the way I said it. I hope you know what I mean. You pay $10, you get 10 loaves of bread. You pay $4, you get 4 loaves. Or you pay, $5 and you get 4 loaves. I don't see the savings. In the case of bread, actually, it would be a good idea because your waistline, my wife is all of bread. I love bread. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Just even the thought of bread at 9 o'clock at night makes me want to go home and eat dinner again. Actually, they feed me here every night. Every night that I'm here, they feed me, and yet I go home and my wife says, "What?" I said, "Well, I need to have dinner." "Didn't you eat dinner with the staff, with everybody?" Well, yeah, but that was more like an appetizer. It's not. It's really a full-course dinner. In all seriousness, thank you. And by the way, these cookies are great. Now, if you think I were going to make sense, which I wasn't, now with this cookie next to me making sense is not going to happen. Back to what I was saying. Fortunately, we can afford it. Fortunately, we can afford continuing the same quality and frequency of service as people of Lake Forest are accustomed to. So long as we can afford it, it's as Councilman Robinson said a moment ago. One of our as a city hall, as a city, we don't really have a say in a lot of things. The state does, and the federal government does. One of the few things that we are mandated to do is infrastructure to some extent, and cleaning the streets and things like that. It's I think you called it core function. It's one of our core functions, as Mr. Robinson, as Councilman Robinson beautifully said. It is a core function. Fortunately, financially, we can afford to continue the same. I think we should continue the same. If we could get the same service and pay a couple of $100,000 less, and pay a couple of $100,000 less, I would be all for it. I'll in fact give you all the cookies too on top of it to Athens, but they're not going to do it. So let's move the staff's recommendation and have our city as clean and as beautiful as it has been for as long as I remember it. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'll call the vote. Councilman, please cast your vote.
And that motion carried 4-1 with Councilmember Gardner opposed. And that takes us to discussion item number 21, discussion regarding the city's website policy, submitted by the Deputy City Manager, Director of Management Services.
Mr. Members of the Council, I'll defer to Deborah Rose for a presentation on this item.
Mayor and members of the City Council, I'd like to introduce Hannah Shin-Haydorn, our Administrative Services Manager, and also our Project Manager for our new website launch. She's going to provide a short update to you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. As you know, since November 2014, we've been working on the city's website redesign project, and the purpose of the website has always been to provide the community with a public service, and the newly redesigned website will continue the city's tradition of providing accurate and timely information, as well as promoting city engagement. On March 3rd, 2015, staff came and presented an update on the project status, and in that we included a list of features and modules that would be in the newly redesigned website. And at that discussion that evening, City Council directed staff to place an item on a future agenda to discuss the possibility of opening up the category of postings allowed to the city's calendar. So specifically, City Council expressed an interest in broadening that. Currently, we only allow city-sponsored or city-hosted events to be posted, and Council was interested in looking at a broader base of community events. So to facilitate tonight's discussion, staff worked with the city attorney to prepare the draft policy that's in front of you. In preparing the policy, the city attorney conducted a forum analysis under the First Amendment to ensure that by designating the calendar as a limited public forum, that the city's website status as a non-public forum would not be jeopardized. So after review, staff and the city attorney believe that by using the objective criteria that are outlined in the staff report, that we can control the postings on the city calendar while maintaining the city website status. In addition to documenting the guidelines for posting on the city calendar, the website policy also documents the city's requirements to operate as a .gov domain, as well as consolidating the city's existing website terms and conditions and external linking policy into one document. They're currently housed in two separate documents. In addition to that, I wanted to provide a quick update. We're excited to announce that later this week we'll be opening up the test production site to 15 resident volunteers who signed up to test our website back in April, and we're anticipating a launch in early June. And that concludes my presentation, and at this time we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I'll bring it back to the council.
I felt like the staff report was just incredibly thorough. We don't have any public comments on this, right?
No.
Okay, great. I thought it was very thorough explanation of .gov. I appreciate the legal opinion as well. I was a little hesitant when we first talked about this. I want to thank Councilman Gardner for bringing this up. When it was first brought up, I was a little hesitant about particular groups that might be adversarial to what I just call community, potentially accessing this. The fact that being a limited public forum, we could shut it down at any point based on Supreme Court decisions. I hope that this satisfies the thoughts and ideas that Councilman Gardner had, but it definitely satisfies the concerns that I had. And I think it is, again, a great idea that you had to try to engage the community in a better way, and so I'm very supportive of this.
I second that. I thought it was an excellent report. Congratulations.
I too thought it was an excellent report, and like Councilman Robinson, I had my my concerns about opening it up to the public and allowing unsponsored, unhosted events in the city of Lake Forest on our website, but your staff report rested my concerns, and so I too want to thank you. I thought it was great. I think it would be a great community input, so I'm very in support of it. Mayor Pro Tem.
So I was looking at the policy. I just moved away from it. Okay, so it's on the top of page 4 of the policy 511. So it says, events submitted for posting containing any of the following shall not be approved for posting. And so I went to the second item, events that promote a specific religious or political activity or belief. So we do have some private schools in town, and would they be exempt from hosting any of their, if it's, say it's a religious school, and they have a function, would that be an item that would be excluded? I'm just trying to play out, compared to a public school, if they had like some, game or event that was, how would a religious school or private school, I guess a religious school, how would that, I'm not sure who I'm asking that to, that's just the staff.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I'll field that question. That is a legal question. The test here for this criterion is events that promote a religious or political activity or belief. If it was, say, a carnival, a festival, a sports activity, a sports game, that would not be promoting religion per se. Would likely be okay under our policy as drafted. If, however, the event did have as part of its purpose to promote any aspect of the faith, of the religion that underlies that school, as the example was given, then it would not qualify under the policy.
Okay, just two more questions. What if it's a religious institution that then promotes a recovery, like
Celebrate Recovery.
Yes, Celebrate Recovery. Thank you.
It's like an AA meeting.
It's a, yeah.
Celebrate Recovery.
Yeah, so I'm not familiar with that specific institution, but if it's like an AA meeting, that would not be part of the religion per se. It wouldn't be promoting a specific faith as that is defined by the Supreme Court. Here, what we're dealing with really is Supreme Court precedent, and when the Supreme Court talks about religion, they're talking about faith, as opposed to certain practices that may be promoted by certain churches. For example, recovery, addiction type issues, that would likely be okay.
Great point. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Hamilton. Basically, it excludes altar calls, Bible studies, so the fact is carnivals and plays that as long as it wasn't entitling to the faith or any particular denomination, religion.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. It's important to note, though, that Mayor Pro Tem Hamilton's question does illustrate the difficulty with these analyses. When we're dealing with constitutional issues and with forum analysis, we're dealing with notoriously murky gray areas. The reason the Supreme Court has given us the safety valve that was mentioned previously is because we can be challenged. There are institutions that may come in and challenge us on the website policy, which is why we have that allowance to basically close things down if necessary, because these are gray areas.
And so one more question is, what if a group wanted to have a discussion on the benefits of grocery store trash bags, or the cons of grocery store trash bags, or the pros of global warming, or global warming exists, global warming does. Those are not necessarily political type. Again, I'm going on to that second item, events that promote a specific religious or political activity or belief. Those aren't necessarily political, but they are maybe scientific in nature. But it looks, political to maybe someone with more understanding and what the agenda really is.
Sure, Mr. Mayor, council members, I feel like I'm back in law school right now. If I were asked that question by staff, if a request was made based on the fact that both of those issues have been made political issues in the past few years, my opinion would be that those would qualify under this criterion as political issues, and we would likely not promote those on the website.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything further? I'd like to move.
Did you have some comments, or since you brought this up?
No, I thought it was a great idea, and I thought it was a great report.
Would you like to make the motion?
Sure. I'll be pleased to make the motion. Make the motion to accept the staff recommendation.
And I'll second that motion. Councilman, please cast your votes.
The idea actually came from others, and I supported it. I didn't invent the idea.
Brought it up after 5 minutes.
That motion carried unanimously. Agenda item 22, annual report on Planning Commission and Parks and Recreation Commission activity, submitted by City Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, this is placed on the agenda at the request of Mayor Pro Tem Hamilton and also pursuant to council direction. So the staff has nothing further to add at this juncture and be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Sure. No, I was thinking that, and I mentioned this while I was on the Planning Commission, that there wasn't an avenue or a formalized process to be able to, discuss some of the issues or some of the things that maybe a commission might say, hey, have you, considered this item, or we have this issue that's, kind of affecting us. And so this is just an idea to somehow formalize the communication from a commission to the City Council, and I think there might be other workarounds if the council were not to support this, but just a thought.
Councilman Robinson.
I'm supportive in general of this. I just would like to put a lot of meat on the bone, make sure that we really are specific in what we're hoping to see from, I'm guessing would be the chairman of the commissions or chairperson. And but I think it makes sense. From my perspective, and see what you all think, but from my perspective, what I would like to see is just probably at some point annually, maybe a 5 to 7 minute presentation, nothing too long. I don't want to have them to have to spend a lot of time, and but I'd like to get something formal, so like a 5 to 7 minute presentation that might give just some of the things they feel like they accomplished in the previous 12 months, and then also some issues that they think that maybe we should be providing them direction to focus on. So, as an example, dog parks were talked about for a long time. When Councilman Nick and I were first elected, I think one of the first or second meetings, we both were very supportive of having the Park and Rec Commission have a discussion about that. Ended up being a gigantic can of worms, I know. I appreciate their willingness to serve and accept some of the things we might be pushing off to them at times. But, things like that they might come to us, we might be unaware of. They can talk to us individually, but it just kind of formalizes that and gives an opportunity to have a public discussion about maybe some items that they feel need to be addressed. It's still ultimately our decision whether we give them that direction, but so as I read this agenda item, that's kind of what I was thinking. I'd like it to be very specific what we're asking them to do, so that we get what we want, and it doesn't end up just being something where we didn't feel like we got the information that we were hoping to extract from them. So,
in addition, I think it probably should be something that the commissions discuss and develop, and not just be something that is just to chair their opinion. And so I don't know if that would be agendizing that at the commission level.
Yeah, if I could add to what Councilman Robinson was saying, I agree completely with the second part of what you're saying. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff we need. Listen, looks like we're going in this direction, but there's going to be stumbling blocks, et cetera. Could you deal with that? I think that very valuable addition. As to the report, this is what we did last year. I read their agendas. I watch their reports. I read their minutes. I think the rest of you probably do too. I kind of know what they're doing. I don't. If they're only going to get 5 or 7 minutes, I don't need as much detail about what they've done. But I would like as much time as possible to say, listen, down the road we think we're going to go in this development, but we'd like your feedback, or can you do something? So I think that'd be very valuable for them and for us and for the city. Good idea.
I agree. I think that our communication with the commissions is sorely underutilized, and so I think that this would be a great addition to our city and the direction of where we're going, because their input they help us out immensely, whether it be Park and Recs, and we keep in both commissions very, very busy in the last few years with all the park renovations we've done, the grand opening of our sports park, and the plans we have with the remaining remnants of the city. Then we have all the planning commission issues, and with the developments that have come and gone, and I think that we're a very, very busy and active city. Like we were talking about, the accomplishments of our city is in large part to do with our staff, but then the wonderful citizens that serve on our commissions, and so I'm fully in support of that. And you think an annual report?
So, yeah, I think that's, to answer your question, yes. I think one of the things that I can see that the commission, there may be residents in the city that don't watch or go to commission meetings. I think, for my time, I think the attendance at council meetings is probably tenfold what the attendance are on commission. So having a discussion about the accomplishments, although we would be very knowledgeable about that, I think it would highlight what the commissions do to the public. So I think that could be a potential. And I don't know, I think maybe having a written report too might be worthwhile. That could be attached to the report along, obviously not a large, I don't want anything, I wouldn't, I'm only one of 5, but I don't think a large report would be good.
Okay. I'll summarize what we've all said and then put a motion together here. So I'll move that we have the commissions provide a annual report to the council at a date, time of the year to be determined, that is approximately 5 to 7 minutes in length, that's written, that they could read, right? So there's not 2 reports, but 1 report. Provide some general highlights of the year, and then lets us know what they would like us to give them direction to focus on in the coming year or years, and to have the commission as a whole, the commissions, discuss that and determine as a group what the chairperson would bring to us. So long-winded, but hope that gives clear direction.
Mayor Pro Tem, would you like to second that?
Yeah, I'd like to second that, and you hit everything that I wrote down too. So,
okay, Councilman, please cast your votes.
And Mr. Mayor, Council, while those votes are being tabulated, just to make it clear, that motion and second and vote was to bring this back to a future council meeting for final action.
Yes.
On this. Okay, thank you.
With those agenda items on there, okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
That motion carried unanimously.
And with that, it brings us to the manager's report.
Nothing further this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Council comments. Dr. Gardner.
Last week, it looked. My wife is very upset with me. I'm going to so many things. The substation opened. Majeska Playhouse had a grand opening. Subaru had a grand reopening, and El Toro High School had that wonderful prelude in the park with the concert. So the staff did a great job on all those functions. They all went very well, and thank you to the Chamber. The Chamber also participated in several of the functions. Those were great. I have, and the Aliso Creek thing, for those of you who are here, has been postponed. It will be on the 30th, and the Kiwanis is having their fundraiser the night of the 30th. So much for the information material. You can see Margie, she's from the Kiwanis, and Stan. Then I have 3 things I'd like to seek consensus on. One of them is, when I go into public buildings, I see all these pictures of people going back 100 years who used to be involved in the organization, etc. And out here we only have the 5 of us. So I'd like to see them bring back to us the idea of a council member, going back for all the old council members to be displayed as well, honoring their service.
I've never seen that.
Do we have their pictures?
We have group photos of the council, it was the tradition of the council in past years to take group photos at the December meeting, kind of the birthday celebration. We have several of those. I have to check to see if I have an individual portrait of Mayor Wilson. I do have a portrait of other past council members.
Even Mr. Link? Do you know?
I don't believe I have an individual portrait
missing
of
link.
Tim Link.
Right. I'd be okay with discussing it.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, thank you. And then on the, I'd like to bring back a discussion on the street sweeping with regard to the signs. What should we do more signage? And also with regard to, I'm getting some complaints that the next day system that we're using may not be the best system because apparently some people, like if it's Monday, the garbage picks up Monday, Tuesday they go to work, and they don't put their garbage back till they come back Tuesday night. So the garbage truck goes there, and there's garbage, the street sweeper goes there, and there's garbage cans in the street. So it looks like there are a couple of things stopping us from being more effective in our street sweeping. I'd like to bring that back for a discussion.
Seeing none for that, so moving on.
I apologize. Just say that one more time.
Okay,
what
we
is
have
exactly.
It turns out most people in the city do not know when street sweeping occurs. I didn't know until not so long ago. Now I know it happens the day after garbage pickup. But most people don't know that. In most places we don't have signs. So perhaps we should have more signs in strategic locations. That's one issue. And then the second issue is our current policy is that we sweep the day after garbage. But I understand from people who've contacted me that on their street there are people who go to work and don't put the garbage can away. They leave it on the street until they come back that night, which means the street sweeper trying to sweep their street can't sweep their space because there's a garbage can in front of it, suggesting that the day after might be a better day to do it. And it's all up in the air, but I just thought we should have a discussion of that issue.
The day after, meaning 48 hours later, it doesn't make much sense because, in my opinion, in my experience, it's usually the day right after trash pickup is where it's worst. So I think I'm not so sure about that, but the education part, signs would be perhaps expensive. Well, we can discuss it. I'm all for the education, for letting people know what the schedule is. Because actually, they do that in Santa Monica. I know they do that in Beverly Hills. It's good for people to know. Maybe we can. Well, I guess I cannot opine too much, but we can talk about that. I guess why not?
I think that we could maybe solve that with education. If we could just make a request that put into our newsletter again, would that be sufficient?
Can we do that, or do we have to schedule it for something on the agenda?
If the city council would like to have a conversation as requested by Councilmember Gardner, you could certainly do that. You'd want to do it on a future agenda
could we
item.
try?
But if you're simply looking for, I think, and I also would defer to the city attorney for the staff to regularly remind residents as to the frequency and when that occurs in our newsletter and other vehicles, I think we can just simply do that. That's not hard.
Yeah, let's do that for the moment because we have so much else coming up. I hate to add more things to us, so let's start off with
Okay.
I'll quit while I'm ahead.
Okay. Councilman Nick?
I thought you said you had 3 things, no?
I quit while I'm ahead.
Oh, so you said, okay, because I was counting and that was, I don't think I can opine much on that, but I just want to say something. And the other reason I was not so much for signs, like I said, they're expensive. You need to post them here and there, which they, in and of themselves, clutter the city. A sign here, a sign there. Newsletter would be the best way to go and the cheapest. Yeah, sign this, do that. It just clutters the city. I have nothing. I just want to quickly thank all of you, the ones who left before, all of you who are still here. I just want to quickly say, I didn't get a chance to say that a few minutes ago, it was a great report. on the website. Thank you. Thank you. It was outstanding. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10. Otherwise, it was a great evening, and because I'm getting home before 10, I need to get on the treadmill tomorrow morning. So can we please prolong this another half hour? I promised her I got to get on the treadmill tomorrow morning. Thank you. Good night.
Councilman Robinson.
I attended all the same events that Councilman Gardner attended, but the one that I want to highlight was, and it's for Mr. Wasserman and your staff, everything that goes on at the sports park, the El Toro High School Prelude in the Park. It was a great event. The cool thing about it was the first concert that we've done at the sports park, and I know I saw Councilman Gardner there. On the Commons, it took up, there were a few hundred people there. I don't know what the exact count was, but it took up like 500, okay. It took up a corner of that field, maybe 20% of it. So I'm really looking forward to all the concerts that we're going to have this summer, especially the big one with 10,000 Maniacs, which, who knows, it could probably fit 10,000 Maniacs in that park, but I'm sure we won't have that many, and we'd have plenty of problems if we did. But it's just so cool to have a venue like this in town. I'm sure that some of the residents around Pittsford Park are excited about it as well. And the parking was great. You didn't have to walk very far. And there were so many people enjoying all the rest of the park at the same time. I was there earlier in the day watching part of Mayor Voigt's daughter's soccer game. And by my untrained eye, it seemed like there were probably 1,000 people in the park, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday. And I was just commenting to my wife, just what an awesome venue that we have. And so, I know I'm speaking on behalf of all the residents. Thank you again to all the staff. As Mr. Bellmer's leaving, thank you for the part that you played. It's a mark that has been made in this community that's going to just be a wonderful place for many years to come. I don't think we can say enough good things about it, and so I'm just so very pleased to see so many people enjoying it every single weekend. It's just amazing. So thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamilton.
So I attended some events too. This might have been just a little bit outside of the 2-week window, but I met with the sheriff, went to the government leaders' prayer breakfast and the Subaru grand opening. Thoroughly enjoyed each of those. I also wanted to briefly just mention that I went to a tournament this last weekend, and I think it was a great tournament. However, there were some kind of maybe structural or growing pains. We're opening up, this new sports park, and not sure how everything works. But I was able to see the two gentlemen on my left here, as it relates to like weather delays and weather closures, and so. I think I talked to the city manager, and if maybe we can agendize having a report coming back. You're probably doing it already. I don't know if you need us to even agendize that, but there were a lot of people from the community that were concerned. On the other hand, staff had a lot of what seemed like decent rationales and things, so I'm hopeful there's some kind of solution, and going forward we can maybe change some things. But I think it's important for us to investigate and understand what the policies are before we march off with pitchforks for whoever that entity that we'd run toward with pitchforks would be. So that's my 2 cents, and great work tonight. And we're actually out of here before 10. That's kind of an exciting thing, seeing how the last 3 weeks we've this is the third weekly meeting we've had in a row.
Well, as a favor to Councilman Nick, I was going to take 25 minutes. I, too, attended the government prayer breakfast in the County of Orange for government leaders, and we had the grand opening of our remodeled Subaru dealership, which is the Irvine Subaru of Lake Forest on Lake Forest and Rockfield. It was a wonderful new showroom and display in the front, and so that was great. And I too attended the Orange County Sheriff Substation Saddleback's ribbon cutting opening. What a great institution that is in our city, to have the substation with over 225 patrol cars leaving Lake Forest to patrol other parts of the county south of us. And so you'll be seeing Mission Viejo cars, Rancho Santa Margarita cars driving through Lake Forest now, which just adds to the presence of police officers in our city. So it's a great feeling to see that, and to drive down Rancho Parkway to see all those black and whites along there with Lake Forest, Lake Forest, Lake Forest, Lake Forest, Lake Forest on it. It's just a wonderful feeling. I too went to the ribbon cutting for the Majeska Playhouse. They've completed their first series of plays and are just now opening up Secrets of a Soccer Mom, which fits our city very well because of the soccer influence that we have in our city. And so I encourage you all to stop by to see that. I want to say the tournament this weekend, I actually was watching from above the Prelude in the Park with El Toro Band. So I saw, and I was amazed on how little of the Commons, the El Toro concert band or orchestra and volunteers and parents and family filled. I mean, it barely filled a quarter of the thing. I was thinking, gosh, it's a low turnout. But as I rolled around it and looking at all the people that were actually in front of the orchestra, it was a great turnout. We had a great tournament this weekend, and obviously acts of God, weather, and thunder, and that can prohibit the play on our sports field. And in the abundance of caution, our staff closed the fields, and I think that there was some concern from residents and soccer officials that there wasn't due diligence in actually inspecting that. I went out, the fields in support of the staff were closed, but I think that I'd like to bring up once again, I think the blanket closure of our fields has to be looked into, and not closing all the fields, because Harold's Park is much different than our new sports park, and so I would just encourage you to keep an eye on that. Other than that, I support your decision. It was sad, but the fields did open, the grass fields did open Sunday, and after playing 4 games in Chino, my daughter came back and fired up for one more at the Lake Forest Sports Park, and it was a great game. I sat with Councilman Robinson and watched most of the game, and it was a great game. And I just love being out there at our sports park and seeing the people out there enjoying the great outdoors and supporting their health by walking and getting out there. It's a great park for our city. It is a gem for all of Southern California. I think that the cities that surround us and the cities that have heard about it from soccer are very envious. And so my hat's off to staff and former council members that were the visionaries that brought that forth. And we got to get with the grand opening, but those that were involved, like David Bellmer, you left your mark in our city. We wish you all Godspeed in the future. I'll see you, and if I have any problems with traffic and on my way to Disneyland, I'm going to talk to you. So thank you so much for all you do for us. God bless. I close this meeting.
Could I just say one more thing?
Yeah.
I forgot to mention to staff about the sports park tournament this weekend, that the fields, that when they were closed, there were actually lots of people playing on them and practicing and things. So that might be another consideration to make, especially on Friday. There were folks on them on Friday. So and Saturday I was able to see them. That would be hearsay, I guess, because I didn't see them on Friday. But, on Saturday I actually saw at least 3, maybe 4. I think it was close to 4 different teams on the field on Saturday after our discussion. So that's all I have.
And with that, I close this meeting, and I'm sorry, Councilman Nick.